In the upcoming PyeongChang Winter Olympic Games, Russia, one of the world's leading power in winter sports games, is not going to be one of the countries participating in the list. And that is because of the International Olympic Committee's decision to ban the country as a result of its doping violations at the 2014 Sochi Games. And now the questions are, what would that mean for the world sports and Korea as the host this time? We want to talk about all of those right here in this program, Upfront.
With less than 2 months to go until the 2018 PyeongChang Winter Olympics, organizers have hit a major roadblock. The International Olympic Committee has banned Russia from competing in the upcoming Games in South Korea following a months-long investigation into allegations of state-sponsored doping at the 2014 Sochi Winter Olympics. However, the committee has allowed individual athletes to compete as neutrals if they prove they are clean.
The Russian Olympic Committee is suspended with immediate effect. Individual clean Russian athletes will be able to participate under strict conditions at the Olympic Winter Games PyeongChang 2018.
Russian officials describe the IOC decision as insulting, raising the prospect that the country might boycott the Games. However, Russian President Vladimir Putin said Moscow will not declare any kind of blockade but allow Russians to participate in the PyeongChang Games as neutral athletes.
Блокады, не будем препятствовать нашим олимпийцам принимать участие, если кто-то из них захочет принять участие в личном качестве.
Following the IOC's unprecedented ban, Russian athletes are divided on whether to attend. Some said they would compete in a personal capacity, while other athletes made it clear that they would never participate under a neutral flag. In the meantime, much attention is being placed on how the Russian ban will affect the PyeongChang Games. With Russia being a winter sports powerhouse, there are concerns that its absence may negatively impact ticket sales or even TV ratings. But there is also optimism that in the face of the doping scandal, Russian athletes' participation and dramatic personal stories of triumph in PyeongChang could create an authentic, true Olympic moment. On this week's Upfront, we examine the consequences of Russia's ban from the Olympics and discuss ways to ensure the successful hosting of PyeongChang 2018.
For today's discussion, we have two guests in studio right here. Professor Lee Byung-jong from Sookmyung Women's University. He teaches on international public relations and public diplomacy. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.
And also we have Professor Joseph Trolan. He is from Hankuk University of Foreign Studies. He specializes on international sports and leisure. Thank you very much for joining us.
Pleasure being here. Thank you.
This is certainly a very interesting topic to discuss. But for our, global audience, not everybody knows, right, what has been happening overall. So as a backdrop, Professor Trolan, what can we say, just describing overall about Russia's so-called violations? What has happened in Sochi?
Well, in general, there looks to be a systemic doping scandal.
Systemic means state-sponsored?
It hasn't been totally proven at the top level, but yeah, I mean, there are significant regulations that shown that there has been some state-sponsored doping that has impacted the Olympics, this past several Olympics. And the IOC have now joined with several leading doping agencies and banned the Russia government from competing at the Olympics this year.
So it's absolutely not the collection of individual cases or individual athletes trying to violate the rules, but it was like people behind the scenes at the time of this games in Sochi. A lot of people involved altogether systemically. That's what we mean by that?
Yes, I do believe so. I mean, it has been shown that it was behind the scenes, planned. The athletes were part of it, but it was certainly well planned behind the scenes. Probably after Russia's poor performance in the Vancouver Olympics, and then the probably lowest medal count for a long time.
Right.
And after that, I believe the state-sponsored doping happened.
We know Russia is one of the leading power in terms of winter sports. in the world. In the minds of Koreans who do not necessarily follow these sports games all the time, somehow Russia not being in the game itself seemed to mean huge thing. I mean, this is a bombshell case. Right. What's your observation of the magnitude of the impact?
I mean, this was announced, I believe, like a few days ago,
right.
And we have only about 50 days to go, and it came too late. And organizers, the PyeongChang Olympic organizers, for them it was a big bombshell, as you said, of course. But they prepared everything, with the assumption that every country will be participating. Right. And as you mentioned, Russia is a major competitor in the games. So they had to change all the preparations and logistics, and there will be all those technical problems. But since the initial announcement, things have improved. Russia will, in the end, join the games, not on a national level, but as an individual level. Athletes will be welcome to join, and the Russian Olympic Committee decided to send them individually with government support. And I think IOC will have to work with the Russian authorities on how to bring these athletes individually to PyeongChang Games. So in the end, I think the Russia, although they will come with a Olympic flag rather than Russian flag, they will not represent the country, but they will be competing. And in that sense, we have some impact, but the impact is not going to be as much as originally, worried, actually.
For general audience, and I think it was a big bombshell, but for the PyeongChang Olympic Organizing Committee, being aware of the possibility of action like this, if they had no idea about it, that's a big problem. How much did we overall, the experts and professionals preparing for the Olympic Games and the watchers worldwide, to what extent do you think the IOC action was kind of anticipated?
I would say, from my opinion, in being in several sport events, that the organizers had an inclination that it was coming down the pipeline. And as Dr. Lee said, Russia they are a big force in it. I think this year they were expected to be in 32 or 35 out of the 100 events medal-wise. But I think the impact won't be as profound as many think. I think a lot of the countries now participating wanted Russia banned from it. I think the spectators kind of knew that it was coming, and I do think the organizers had an idea it was going to happen. So I think they would have had a plan B and a plan C for that. But having the Russian athletes here as individuals under the Olympic flag is a good sign of kind of breaking bread with Russia, saying, if you've acknowledged, you've apologized, now we will help kind of draw a line under it.
Right. We discussed what Russia has done wrong and what's been taking place in terms of a deal with the situation overall. And here, we'd like to invite a Russian perspective and what Russia can say about these accusations and the stances of IOC. The guest we have through our connection is Mr. Gregory Doloraya, and he's a director of the Center for Asian Strategy at the Russian Academy of Science. Let's take a listen to what he has to say about this IOC decision about Russia's action.
I think it's totally unlawful and is directed against the spirit of Olympic movement, which is supposed to bring together even warring parties, people from all walks of life, to celebrate the human spirit, the human body, and the peaceful competition. By doing so, International Olympic Committee is in fact discredited itself as a politicized, partisan organization, which I think is spoiling the whole of Olympic movement. And I'm afraid that these kind of decisions by IOC, by WADA, can really discredit the sports and lead to the fragmentation of international sports. Deglobalization and breaking of the sports into several compartments or regional blocks.
And this is very regrettable that after more than a century of renewed Olympic movement started by Coubertin, we now have loosened the spirit of this movement and loosened the impetus for the Games.
Professor Lee, in Mr. Tolorai's statement, I hear that he kind of protests the IOC decision.
I mean, he's more concerned about the fact that this kind of decision by the IOC can divide the world, fragmentation of the world, whereas the Olympic spirit is supposed to bring the whole nations together for peace.
Yeah.
And in that sense, he's not happy with the decision.
Right,
But I don't think Russia has any clear evidences, big enough to contradict the IOC decision. And this Russian guest didn't have it either, I guess.
They're trying to politicize it, saying that the Americans are forcing it through.
Oh, some kind of anti-Russian force around the world are giving Russia trouble?
If you look at the original whistleblower is now under federal protection living in the US at an undisclosed place. So I would say they've used that to kind of drum up the idea that it's anti-Russian.
Kind of conspiracy.
I would say so. Kind of after the Soviet Union fell and there was a bit of anti-Russian sentiment, it's kind of, I believe, President Putin and was maybe not him, but his underlings are kind of pushing through these theories that it's anti-Russia rather than drugs-based.
Right. Professor Lee, did IOC have any other choice other than banning Russia? Because I heard something like in the global media that this actually is a compromise between IOC and Russia, meaning that there could be tougher sanctions, which I don't understand because I'm not an expert. Could there have been any other tougher things?
IOC could have completely banned the participation of all Russian athletes, of course.
Whether individual or...
I see. Either, okay. Individual level, national level, they could have done that. And that could have caused a huge consequences, of course. Russia will be furious. President Putin will be very angry. They're already angry. And they'll be even angrier. And that could have, consequences which can affect not just this Olympics, but the upcoming Olympics in Tokyo and Beijing.
Right.
And I don't think IOC wanted to have that kind of thing to happen, right? So they wanted to control this, damage it somehow by just banning the national level participation.
So did they, in their announcement, IOC, did they make it clear at their announcement that individuals can participate?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think they banned the government program. They banned the state officials, government officials from coming to the games. So there'll be no Russian officials at the games.
I see.
And they fined them as well, I think €15 million or $50 million fine as well, which could have been steeper at this one. But I do think a good compromise was allowing the athletes to compete, clean athletes to compete. But I don't think Russia has any argument against it. I mean, they've been caught. They've accepted it. They've apologized. And I think for them to challenge it more, especially with the FIFA World Cup coming up in Russia in 2018, could have created some resentment amongst FIFA countries as well. So I think that's maybe one of the reasons
why. It's kind
why
of a compromise. Agreed solution. While Russia is showing their anger, but the compromise was there. But some must be concerned, if this is all IOC is going to do, then there will be other countries who might do it because they'll think, okay, we'll do this, and then all we get is just banning the country, and we can still compete.
I sort of disagree.
Okay.
Because this was a strong enough message.
You think so?
No, not being able to participate as a nation is a huge blow to any country.
I see.
If it happened to Korea, it would be a big, big humiliation for us.
Even though our star athletes will still be able to get the medals.
We want to be there officially as a nation. So this is a clear enough message, I think. I think other countries will not try to do the same thing.
Do you agree with that point?
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I think it's a good, the precedent has been set now, the foundation's here. And anything if a country now engages in systemic doping and is caught, I think the fines and the problems and the solutions, they just keep growing and growing. And I think the IOC can then ban them for 2 or 3 Olympics. They can outright ban. They can increase the fine. I think this is the baseline where it is now. And anything else happens next in the future, the fines get tougher.
So
the bans
IOC
get tougher.
can make it clear that they can do more if there are other cases coming along.
I think absolutely, and I think they would too. I think this is bringing them into the new era of of improving trust with the general public and improving openness. And I don't think they would ever go back now. I think the line's been drawn by the IOC. And I think every other country or every other organization will follow the IOC now. Because it was a big statement banning Russia.
Then, Professor Lee, what's Korea's work to do about this? Korean government and the organizing committee here, accommodating the case of Russian athletes coming in with the Olympic flags. Anything else that's major?
I mean, we only have like 50 days, but a lot of work has to be made during these next 50 days. Again, still, Russia is not participating as a country, and that has some impact. And we try to do some damage control, but we need more work here, particularly in terms of promoting the events, both at home and abroad. Domestically, a lot of concern that the Korean population is not that enthusiastic about this yet, and will it remain the same? We have to yet to see. We remember 2002 World Cup at the beginning, the same very cold mood at that time. But as the game started, things changed, and we became very passionate about the game. So this can happen again in Korea domestically, but more attention has to be given to the international area where a lot of leaders. I think our government is trying to invite top leaders from Japan and the U.S. and other countries to make it look good. Despite the absence of Russia as a nation, if we gather all these important celebrities and leaders, head of states to the event, I think that's what we want to do, and that's what they have to work on over the next 50 days, I believe.
Winter Games, is it common to have many of the foreign dignitaries attending and head of states and stuff?
Yeah, I think it wouldn't be probably as popular as the Summer Olympics. But yeah, there's certainly there are some of the highest level dignitaries would attend the games. I think they've always, especially from the stronger nations, they always like to showcase the head dignitaries.
And also the fact that the next Olympics will be in Tokyo. So, Prime Minister Abe, in theory, should be able to come, and I believe Beijing also after that. So at least China and Japan, so their leaders, have to come to make it look good. Again, the U.S. I don't know, but
U.S. maybe not, but Canada, you look at some of the Northern European countries. I would expect their leaders to be at the opening ceremonies.
And I think Professor Lee made an important point, right? The Winter Games here in Korea and the next Summer Games in Japan, and then following Winter Games in Beijing. So it's the 3 countries have more than ever before strong incentive to cooperate.
Absolutely, yeah.
So it will be give and take, I guess. If they come, we'll go there as well next time. Interesting point to watch as well. Professor Trolan, as an observer watching and following the preparation so far, in your perspective, Korean government and the organizing committee here, what are the critical things to do in dealing with Russia's absence as well as other points as well?
I was in PyeongChang about 3 weeks ago.
How did it look?
It looked very nice. There's still a few of the more superficial things to kind of fix up, but overall the infrastructure facilities were very good looking. They're very well organized. We were in Gangneung as well, where the ice is, and then the snow sports will be in PyeongChang. So we visited both of them with the university.
What was the snow situation?
We went into the hotel, the resort, and came out 2 hours later, and I think we had about 1/2 foot of snow. So it was very good. It was beautiful. But in relating to the government, I do think while the infrastructure is good, we need to promote it more. And in my opinion, we need to use some emotional marketing.
What do you mean by that?
What I mean by that is, you know, tell stories, human stories. The individual Russian athletes, you know, talk about them, or Korean athletes, or hockey team, or figure skating, or sledding. You know, superstars, but then just potential stars. You know, people want to see human stories. They want kind of approachability, accessibility.
Right.
You know, I always relate back to football. You know, Park Ji-sung United, Ki Sung-young with Glasgow Celtic. You see so many people wearing Tottenham jerseys and Celtic jerseys.
Right.
That's the emotion behind it. You know, so I think the government, through marketing, they need to create stories behind it.
I see. And in that sense, we still have time, right? 50 days.
Oh, yeah.
50 days we can improve.
Certainly
upon
have.
that,
We
right?
have. You know, 50 days is honestly in the media, it's a lifetime.
Yeah.
Right.
So plenty of time to drum up support.
Okay. Professor Trolan, key question about PyeongChang that we know for sure. I mean, we are getting to the closing point of our program here, and the essential question, one of the key questions in the minds of Korean people is North Korea. Russia as a country is not participating, even though athletes are participating here. How does it help or hurt the prospect of North Korean participation? And what do you see in terms of its likelihood overall?
I know that several North Korean athletes have qualified for it. Will we know soon? Probably not. It'll probably be a last-minute decision by North Korea. In my opinion, I think it would be very good if North Korea did come to the Games. I think it's an opportunity for Korea to showcase the peacefulness, the use of soft power, getting involved into international relations. I think we've had the Olympic truce for several now Olympics, and I think the most recent one was signed by China and the US and Japan. South Korea's there. Hopefully Russia are on board with it as a country. And so I do believe that, given kind of the saber rattling that's been going on from North Korea, I think having them here would highlight a peaceful and open game. So the IOC should do as much as it can to get them here, and I think also as the government of South Korea should open it up as well and allow them to come in.
Russia is one of the parties that could have tried to help in terms of encouraging North Korea's participation here. Professor Lee, what do you see in terms of its impact, and then what we have to expect in terms of North Korea's possible participation?
The international community, including Russia and China, they can somehow encourage them to come, put pressures so that they can come. But in the end, it will be their own, their national decision. And with all those, saber rattling, as you mentioned, going on, a lot of things are at stake now. And their participation, even a small scale, symbolic participation, will be very, very good for the whole, Olympic spirit and the success of the Olympics itself. But even without their participation, I think PyeongChang Olympic will be a success. We have shown, many times that this kind of global sports events we hosted, like '88 Olympics and 2002 World Cup. There were a lot of concerns beforehand, but we are good organizers, and we prepare very meticulously, very well. So I think in the end there will be a success, with or without their participation.
If North Korea announces their participation in the very, very, very last minute, can we still handle it?
I mean, I think the number of participants is very small. Only like couple of figure skaters have qualified. So I think we can accommodate this small number of people who join at the last moment. I think.
And will the size of participation matter, or just the fact that they're participating will be making a big difference?
I think the organizers have prepared several scenarios, plan A and B, C. I'm sure one of them include last-minute North Korean participation. So I think it'll be okay. They can handle it.
Okay, great. So a lot of points covered, we have covered today, and we have learned a lot of interesting things about the doping, Russia and North Korea as well, and for the Olympic Games. And I have to thank big time for our participants for sharing wonderful views and perspective. Professor Trolan and Professor Lee, thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for having
Join
us.
us here. Thanks. Thank you. And we want to thank our viewers for having joined us, and I'm sure you have learned a lot this time. And that's all for now. And so long. This has been Kim Byung-jong.